So what's the best graphics card you can buy for £90 in 2017? And should you buy new or used? Welcome everyone, I'm Twisted Skinz and I'm going to lay out the pros and cons for both new and used video cards at a price of £90 or less. So if you're finding it tough to come to a decision at this price point, then this guide should help. Now it goes without saying that the new market has a couple of obvious advantages over used cards. The first being a warranty which is normally between 2 to 3 years depending on the manufacturer. So if you're the sort of person who hasn't had good experiences with used items or simply don't like the idea, then this may be a pretty big factor. The second being new video cards are normally better optimised for current and upcoming games. Older cards which are lacking driver support will perform under par given the same circumstances. And thirdly, new cards will not require any maintenance. What do I mean by that? Any used card that you buy, depending on the age, may need both its thermal paste and pads replaced. You can simply just plug and play with a new card. And one final advantage is that new cards tend to be more efficient due to manufacturer refinement over the years. So with all those pros laid out, the only viable option at £70 to £90 currently is Radeon's RX-460. Can you buy better video cards? Yes, you certainly can, but I bet that they will certainly be more expensive or power hungry. If you shop around, I've seen this card for as low as £70 brand new. Check out places like Hot Deals UK if you live in the UK or Slick Deals if you live in the US. At £80 to £90 it is still good value for the performance on offer. And if you're willing to compromise a little and not expect 60 frames per second at ultra settings 1080p, then this is the card for you. Well, more specifically, if you're the sort of person that loves esport games, then this card will give stellar performance. Games like Overwatch, Dota 2, CSGO, League of Legends, Hearthstone and Rocket League will all be playable at over 60 frames per second on ultra settings. It will even play most AAA games on medium settings at 45 to 60 FPS or at high settings around 30 FPS depending on the game. Now I will leave you a link in the description which will take you straight to the cheapest place that I could find it. Okay, so that's the best new choice. What other options do we have? Well, if you don't mind doing a spot of maintenance replacing the thermal pads and paste, then you should consider looking at the used market. Nvidia's evergreen GTX 750 Ti is trending at £75 in places like CEX, eBay and Gumtree. Now the reason this card was and still is extremely popular is because of its great price to performance ratio. That and the fact that you can literally plug this into any PCI Express 2.0 or 3.0 socket and you transform any desktop into a gaming PC with respectable results. There isn't any need to upgrade your power supply as the design is efficient and won't draw more than 70 watts from the motherboard. In actual fact will quite often draw less. You only have to look at Steam's hardware survey from January 2017 and it placed third of all video cards being used, which gives us a pretty good indication of its popularity. Now unfortunately its popularity is also its Achilles heel. At a used price of £75, it's just not competitive enough in my eyes. You see, this card used to be available for between £50 to £60. And if you can still get it at that price, then it is definitely worth considering, especially if you have limited space or a low-powered system. One thing to note though is that drivers are not as well optimised since the release of their Pascal architecture. Okay, so let's look at another worthy option around this price point. Nvidia's GTX 770 can be had for around £80 to £90 if you're looking at the 2GB model. There is also a 4GB version, but these seem to be fetching a lot more money at around £120 to £130. And whilst there certainly would be some mileage in that, at that price I would personally be looking at something like Radeon's R9 290 or 290X. With that being said, if you manage to obtain one for under £100, then go for it. Coming with 1536 CUDA cores, a base clock of 1046 MHz and a boost of 1085 MHz, this card will easily trounce the RX-460 or GTX 750 Ti. Offering a good 20 to 25% greater performance than either of those cards for a mere £5 to £15. That's an awesome deal. And if I was going Team Green, this would be my top recommendation as it is still competitive in today's games. The only small caveat being that you will need about a 500 watt power supply to drive this card. Those of you wanting greater performance in the latest titles and are sporting at least a 5 to 600 watt power supply should definitely consider Radeon 7900 or R9 280 series, which offer amazing performance for the money. For those that don't know, the R9 280X is essentially a rebranded 7970, which was Radeon's flagship card released way back in December 2011. Today is still a force to be reckoned with in current titles, and I will be posting a video in the future to showcase just how well it performs. So watch this space. Now both of these cards can be bought for around £90 or under and will trash the competition at this price point. With that being said, due to their popularity, I have seen them sell for much higher prices as well. Your best option will more than likely be the 7970, although if you are patient you should be able to snap one or a 280X for £90 or under. Just be sure to check the seller's feedback and the item's condition to make sure you don't purchase a turkey. Now the R9, 280 and 7950 quite often get overlooked for the video cards I just mentioned. These can commonly be found for between £60 and £70, and at that price it's just too good to pass up. Coming with the same 3GB of DDR5, like its bigger brothers and clocked at 925MHz, it has a distinct advantage over the other cards we've looked at so far. You see, that extra gigabyte of VRAM is welcome in today's games, as quite a few titles will fill 2GB easily. The extra headroom to crank up texture settings means that most AAA games will be very playable at high settings instead of medium. Games like Dark Souls 3, Doom, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto 5 will all play at 45 frames per second on high settings, especially if you decide to do a spot of overclocking and bridge the gap between the 280 and 280X. Older titles will be able to play it on ultra settings and it will breeze through any esports games you can think of. In conclusion, the RX-460 can be had for as low as £70 and is my choice over the GTX 750 Ti as it has greater performance, driver support and can be bought new for the same used 750 price. If you're looking at Nvidia cards though, I would personally be purchasing the GTX 770. At £80 to £90 it offers comparable performance to an R9 280X. Especially if older games like Crysis 3 will be your focus, then the 770 actually gives slightly better results. For those wanting maximum performance at the cost of efficiency in the latest titles, look no further than the Radeon 7900 and R9 280 variants. These cards will give you the best bang for your buck and is my top recommendation if you have a beefy enough power supply. So that about wraps up the best graphics cards you can buy for £90 in 2017. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this content. If you didn't, give it a dislike. Let me know in the comments section some of the best cards you've managed to pick up with great price to performance ratios. And remember, stay passionate about PC, whatever your budget, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.